Welcome to Recox, the Inventory Success Podcast, where we discuss how the top operators source, manufacture, finance, and distribute their inventory and create successful businesses. I'm your host, Mike Gelb. I'm a community manager here at Manufactured. Manufactured is the inventory success platform for consumer and B2B companies. What do we mean when we say inventory success? Well, we help SMBs manufacture, finance, and distribute their products across 20 categories. Looking for your help reducing your COGS, or you're looking for inventory financing or selling in new channels? We're happy to see if we can help at manufactured.com. Now, I know this is a free podcast, but that doesn't mean we have a favor to ask. If you're enjoying the show, if you can please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to this show so you don't miss when the next episode is, that'd be amazing. And if you can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would mean a lot. We not only produce content devoted towards SMBs, but we also throw events to help bring the community together. To subscribe and know when we're next doing an event, check out in our show notes. You can head out to manufacture.com/events. Our guests today are Heather Sloan and Enwei Lee, co-founders of Heali Medical. Heali Medical produces kinesiology tape infused with magnesium and menthol for pain relief and faster recovery. We discuss their aha moment starting Heali, their innovation within kinesiology tape, how retail found them, and their approach to pricing in different retail formats, expansion to new accounts, and as well as the toll that takes when it comes to inventory. Their approach as well to packaging and having to reformat their packaging, why they did so, and much, much, much more. Without further ado, here are Heather and Enwei. Heather and Lee, thanks so much for joining me here today. How are you both?
Fantastic, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's start from the very beginning. What was the insight or aha moment that led you to founding Heali?
Well, Lee and I both have a background in health and wellness. So we would often sit and talk about ways we could improve kind of what existed on the market and how we could improve that. So I think that was really the start. We have a combined skill set as well of Lee has a really strong side of operations and logistics, and I have a strong side in sales. And we thought there's all these improvements we could make with existing products and unifying our strengths in the operations and sales side. That was kind of the beginning for us.
So why did you decide, in terms of, within the health and wellness space and kicking it around, why did you decide on tape? What did you see that was currently in the market that was not when it came to healing, different parts of your body? Why? What did you think about the innovation that was currently happening, and why did you think that it made sense to start Heali?
Well, I think that for us, we having been a chiropractor and Lee studying Chinese medicine, we're used to seeing a lot of patients. So we wanted to be able to produce a product that people could take with them, maybe during treatments or on their own when they couldn't get to treatments. So in the current tape space, it's kind of been the same, traditionally just tape with no real innovation for many, many years. And patches, also similar. Like there's some infused patches, but they're boring and they're ugly and people wanted to hide them. And we really wanted to solve the issue of having something that was, transportable, easy to use, but also provided many benefits. So support being one of them, pain relief being one of them, and then, natural infusion being the other.
I guess just add to Heather, because we're being in the health field for so many years, and that's definitely, we can see that's what's been missing. You want to have a sports tape provide support and recovery, but also with the infused ingredients as well, naturally.
Can we talk a little bit about the infused ingredients? I know this is probably your special sauce, but what specifically? I know that you said that it was just kind of just tape that was on the market, and you wanted to create something a bit different that's actually more healing. Can you talk about how your process maybe was slightly different to what was on the market, what's currently on the market with other brands?
Yeah, so other brands aren't really infused. There are a few that have dabbled in the infusion, but all just with menthol. And in both of our practices, Lee and I with patients, for mine from many, many years ago, we always use magnesium, whether it was magnesium spray, magnesium creams, taking magnesium orally. Like magnesium would just help with so many things, cramps, spasms, injuries, flushing lactic acid. Like there was always this like pull back to magnesium. So when we were thinking about different ingredients, we were trying, all sorts of ones to replicate kind of the effects of recovery with the additional pain relief. And there was an aha moment where Lee and I landed on magnesium, and we were like, that's it. We got to do magnesium. Like it's benefited so many people. It's helped so many people. We have to figure it out.
So why as well do you think that other brands that were kind of more menthol based or menthol infused, why do you think that they didn't explore magnesium?
I think it's from technology part, it's not that easy to create that infusion because menthol is one is oil soluble, one is water soluble, right? So it's just different process to infuse the two different ingredients. So I think just from that tech part, it takes us a year to do our development and research to come up to a perfect way to do it and perfect percentage to do it. So it's not easy.
I also think, just to add on to what Lee said, like the magnesium trends really just become hot in the last, year or two. So people really are like, everyone's obsessed with magnesium because the benefits and everything are really becoming like more mainstream and to the forefront. But we also studied, natural wellness in our practices individually and have been using magnesium for years. So it may not have been top of mind for other people who didn't have that same training or experience.
Right. That makes sense. How did you know, when was the moment, since you did have rounds and rounds of iterations and a lot of tests, how did you know that, hey, this, we now finally have the right formula, this is the right tape, it's sticky the way we want it to be sticky, at the same time the magnesium is truly working, and this is maybe the right mix of magnesium? What was that process like?
On everybody we can put our hands on during the process of product development.
Create your first iteration, try it out on a bunch of people, including yourselves. We have lots of athletes and patients and people that we could, use for feedback. And I think that, once we knew the ingredients that we wanted, we just had to tweak the formula so that it could provide the sensation of pain relief and a temporary block at the same time as providing recovery and helping with the muscle flexibility and flushing lactic acid at the same time as providing the adhesive that we needed. So I think it was mostly just like trial and error and feedback.
Was there a particular ingredient that was difficult to source when you're thinking about, okay, let's actually build this into a product that, actually will come to market and be able to commercialize it? What's been kind of the hardest part when it comes to building that product? Has it been ingredients? Has it been the actual overall process, just creating the product itself and creating the tape to the exact specifications?
I think the ingredients combination come easy because again, Heather and me, we've been with patients, we see what's missing on the market, and then we did our research on ingredients when we landed on the magnesium menthol, and then take the longer processes as we talked about, the many rounds of just test and error and finding the perfect product. And then I think the next challenge is how we get people to know we have this product.
But also, I think too, we want ours to be very consumer friendly and easy to use. There is a benefit of having that infusion because no matter how you apply it, that infusion will work. It's a bonus if you can get a perfect application, but as long as you cover it and peel and stick, that will work. And I think that, some of the iterations were just how can we make it easier and easier for the consumer to apply, to use, whether it be, strategies or technique or the way it's packaged or whatnot, just to try to make it seamless.
How did you go about as well finding the right manufacturer? Was that difficult just because this was a new product in terms of being tape that actually had infused with magnesium and other elements, or was it actually not so tricky?
I've been in sourcing for 20 years with all the relationships I still kept with manufacturers overseas, and the fact that Heather and me both are in the health field. So we know exactly the products we want. And then it's just found that factory who's eager for business, wants to be your partner, because it's a brand new product. As much as we have ideas, we have specifications we want, we still need someone to carry that process for us, right? So, and it took a bit time, and to find that right partner. Then I think just afterwards is pretty smooth sailing. Just how we can work together as partners to grow and to build this product.
No, that makes sense. I mean, also, I'd imagine juggling as well, minimum order quantities and kind of all that tough stuff, right? In terms of who's actually maybe more eager for the business versus those that aren't. At the same time, making sure also your quality is up to snuff and also is to your standards as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's definitely, it's always a juggle. You start a business, you don't have that enough MOQ to get the factory excited about your business, and then you kind of have to kind of persuade, and okay, let's build this product together, the process together, and stuff like that.
Got it. And so since it seemed like you had a very good network of manufacturers, didn't seem like it was just picking kind of the one that made sense for you all, based on, a couple different factors. I'd imagine MLQs or uh, uh, MOQs, excuse me. But also, can they do up the quality? But you had a pretty good network. It seemed like the difficulty in terms of getting the product off the ground was really that year of actually prototyping and figuring out and kind of establishing the new product and doing all that kind of product development legwork. But the actual manufacturing and the commercializing part of it, in terms of, okay, like, how are we going to kind of get this to work at scale, where it can be not a simple product, but simple enough where it actually could make sense for manufacturing to produce it at mass. That wasn't as much of an issue or a problem. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's more really work with the factory to develop. Once the product is developed, yes, yeah, I think it's like once into production, it's not an issue. We have QC offices in China. We take our quality control very seriously, and then just make sure also everything goes smoothly. Yeah.
How do you manage? I'm always curious. How do you manage quality control? Since you're obviously producing the product overseas, and how what was your approach?
So you have to understand the product first, then we have our specifications for QC during production, specifications, before shipment inspections, specifications. We have a document, the areas that we need tested, colors, the fabrics, the thickness, the adhesive, appearances, packaging. Like, we have criteria and everything, right? So that's, you just build up the profile. Again, just I guess just based on the experiences I've been dealing with the factory, so that comes is quite easy. And our product is Informed Sports certified, so every batch has to be sent to the lab to test it in the US.
in the US. So we wanted to, after the stringent quality control that we have to get it, into Canada and the US, we then got it third party tested in Canada. So safe from, any microbes or heavy metals or anything like that, latex free, breathable, hypoallergenic, all that to be tested. And then also sent to the US for informed sport certification, so that any banned substance that would limit any professionals, they could feel confident and safe and trusted in our product.
And what was your first sales channel? How did you think about your kind of go to market strategy and also and which channel to focus on? initially?
Like we say, retail chose us. So because I don't think we were strategic on that specific move as to which channel. We just were advised, we came into contact or became friends with kind of our first person who was like helping us on the advisory side. And he just said, "Oh, you guys should attend this trade show. It's online right now. And there's a bunch of big box retailers that go to it." And we went and we pitched. You have 10-minute meetings and you pitch your heart out. And it happened to be in the drug trade. So most of the big box like drug trade channels. And so we did really well there. We won first prize as the most voted like up and coming product. And we had only been in business, like we had our product in our hand for like 2 weeks. Like literally like the product had landed like August 1st. And this was like, August 10th or something. So it was rad. Like it was a real, like, sometimes just everything lines up. And this was kind of one of those experiences where, and then all of a sudden we were committed to retail, so from there we got into retail channels, we got into drug, we got into stores like Vitamin Shop, we got into stores like Wegmans. So like from that first, like online opportunity, like I like trade show.
Wow. It's so rare. It's in this age that a company can go retail first, right? Before they've kind of built and kind of be able to have really strong D2C metrics or Amazon metrics, e-commerce metrics in general. It's pretty rare just to kind of go straight into retail. And actually retailers kind of come to you as well. I know you were pitching, but they were obviously listening and you obviously won first prize. That actually come to you and say, "Hey, we actually want you all to be in our stores." That's incredible.
I think the most consistent feedback we got from all the buyers is that this space really needed a shakeup. People thought it was pretty boring. They thought it had been just very repetitive, and in addition to the magnesium and menthol differentiation, we also tried to be very style centric. So like function meets fashion. So as a secondary differentiation, partially because we like style and we like, having the opportunity to provide an option that looks cool and people can express themselves and match their team colors or their workout outfits or their personality. So, I think that also added an additional element of fun and uniqueness to our product in addition to like the magnesium menthol benefits.
So you're knocking on doors, or rather they're knocking on your doors to kind of come into their doors on the retail side of things. What I'd imagine what can be challenging too is that I've kind of heard from investors and brands is when you maybe get into quite a few retailers and then it's like then of course you have to perform. You have to obviously your velocities have to be solid in order for them to want you back. And it's that classic case of, hey, if we expand too quickly, then we actually might not be able to really focus on the channels or on these accounts themselves nearly as kind of hard to actually drive sales in order to kind of keep the retailers happy, keep obviously you happy, keep the brand happy, and obviously sell through. So I guess my question is, what was your approach then when you had a few retailers come to you when it came to how to actually expand and making sure that you weren't too stretched?
Yeah, I think it's been kind of like a learning process as we go. The best thing that we did was get some advisors who've been in the space to help guide us. But I think there's still a process where you're learning, you're a new brand, you're learning with these retailers that you've never worked with before as to, what you can demand and what you cannot and what rules you need to play by and how you can best maneuver within that.
So how many doors did you all start off with?
To think back, because that was a few years ago. I don't know, maybe like 1,400, somewhere between that, something like that.
How did you all make sure that kind of that you were telling through that you were that the velocities were great was and kind of manage the merchandising or manage those relationships as well with the store managers or category managers, because 1,000 stores off the back, I mean that's a lot of stores. How did you all think through it?
Yeah, I think, well, we did, again, like we have some distributors or like brokers, distributor broker who have experience at each channel. So again, that would be like our best advice for anyone who's starting out, is to try to find someone who knows the ins and outs of that specific retailer to help. There's only so much that you can do at each one. So, I mean, we just tried to break it down the best we could in each retailer. How do we drive people into the store? What advertising metrics can we use? Are in-store promotions beneficial, or is it better to use outside, marketing tactics? And again, some of that's just trial and error, and it's not necessarily the same for each retailer. So like each one that you're with, you kind of have to pivot and adapt. I think that our strength is that we can adapt quickly. So not to say that we've made 100% of the right choices, but where we saw we were failing or where we saw we could do better, we could adapt.
In terms of adapting, what does that quite mean? Does that mean pulling out a retailer? Does that mean, okay, we need to focus more time on this retailer or on this account? And if so, what did you spend your time doing?
Yeah, I guess it's very individual to the situation. But for one, I think, our box is an example. So we came out with one type of box that we love, and it was beautiful and it was a good starting place. But then perhaps the consumer didn't get the message, in the way that they needed to right off the bat. So when we made the switch from that box to the box that we have now, we can tell right away that that's an impactful move, that it's, right away for people walking by it, they are able to recognize what we are and want to try us in a way that might bring about more turns. So something like that, is a quick adaptation that we were able to do. And then also, yeah, I guess the learning tools of what promotions to do at each retailer, or what works, or how to get the information about what promotions to do so you don't waste so much money on promotions that maybe don't drive sales, where you're positioned and how you can influence that. And maybe if you don't get where you want to be positioned, then maybe that isn't a retailer you work with. And, pivot and change and make some changes that, you work with the retailers that are willing to place you where you think you'll be successful.
Since when you first get into, a retailer, you might not be merchandised correctly. You might be merchandised in a really kind of crappy area, right? Within the store or an area that doesn't make sense. Since you're now, more established, you're obviously in a lot of doors. When a retailer comes to you and approaches you and said, "Hey, we want Heali in our stores," what's kind of your process in terms of figuring out if it's the right retailer for you? If that the retailer is going to make investment on their end, what does investment in your end look like? I mean, obviously there's an inventory investment too, which we'll get to. But in terms of opening up and expanding to new accounts and new doors, what does that kind of look like for you all to say, yes, let's go, versus, you know what, maybe this is not the right fit?
I think, first of all, do they sell kinesiology tape? At the beginning, kinesiology tape, it has to be something that they sell that customers are familiar with. We are pain relief, we are recovery, but we're first and foremost a kinesiology tape. We apply like a kinesiology tape. We do have the added benefits of support. So I think if it's a avenue that is already selling that type of product, then it's certainly something that would make sense for us to at least consider.
What I think also, and also it's look at your competitors who's been in the industry for a long time, right? Just you can see where their footsteps are, expansions are and stuff like that, and that's valuable lessons for us to learn to avoid mistakes they've been done. There's certain types of stores or chains they're not in. There's got to be a reason for that, right? So that's important too.
How do you also think overall with pricing? Because pricing, I think, is sometimes can be a little bit undervalued when it comes to talking about brands, because the branding, the product, it can all be so innovative and so fascinating and so amazing, but at the same time, consumers are price sensitive for the large part, right? So how did you all think about, on one hand, you have this very innovative product, and that's incredible in terms of what it can do to the body. Um, how but at the same time, you also have to, think about your competitors, and kind of think about them. How did you all approach that in your minds in terms of where to actually price Heali?
I think when we created Healy, I really, there's a book called a Blue Ocean Strategy. I think is really inspiring me to think is that you want to provide your consumers a products with added benefits, but at more affordable pricing. So that's kind of our strategy to create a product. You don't have to pay the extra bucks for the added benefits you got, but it's improved products still at your price point you have been accepting, and that's really been our pricing strategy.
And I think you also realize that, like, consumers are only going to pay for so much for one type of product, right? Like, no one's going to pay $400 for a roll of kinesiology tape. So, like, there's some built-in limitations that come with the type of product you're making.
Do you also find, because I remember you talked a little bit about having to change your packaging, so that maybe consumers understood better the product and the differentiation. Are there particular words or parts of the packaging that you both found really kind of sells the product, or really kind of simplifies the product for consumers? Not that it's a complex, product maybe understand, but understand that it's, magnesium based versus menthol infused. How but how do you convey that to consumers to kind of show that your product is quite different to others on the market, and why it's can actually provide much better pain relief for them?
I think, well, one thing we did with our packaging is, at the beginning, we wanted it to look beautiful, and we hadn't figured out a way to have images on it and still, like, make it look beautiful. And so that was one thing that was awesome that we, I think, figured out on this packaging, is like how to take an image of someone and still make it look like really pretty, but still, or, cool looking, but still have it tell you what it is at the same time. And then in terms of wording, like saying that it's like cooling therapeutic tape, like adding in a word that gives a feeling, I think that really helps. We are created and trusted by healthcare practitioners, so I think that's an important thing to mention. Trying to think what else we added, but I think maybe just like highlighting the magnesium and menthol and the recovery benefits as well.
And it's just, again, go back, just like learning from the industries also. Our original box, there's like no person image. It was just like really clean looking boxes on the shelf. But then turns out to be, people don't know what that is. It's on the shelf, it's a nice looking box, but like they don't know it's kinesiology tape. When you're glancing that a million products in the floor, you don't really stop to read. If the picture catches your eyes, then you understand it's tape, then you will go look for it, and then you see right away the differences we have, right? So then we learned our lessons, we switched our packages. There's the reason why, all your competitors have a person on the box to tell consumers that's a sports kinesiology tape. So that's what we kind of adapted, but made it, I think our packaging made it really beautiful, and it stands out, call out the key features.
And also the color change, like going from black to teal. So now it's kind of eye-catching rather than rather than blending in.
Blending the
As you've expanded to many new stores, how have you approached with in terms of expanding your inventory? Because, like, for example, have you had any issues with dead stock or inventory that you're unable to sell for for Heali Medical? Because you always have this kind of balance when you're expanding new stores, and you of course need to load up on inventory. But do you also have situations where you're actually maybe not able to actually sell the inventory and have issues with dead stock?
I think we have been really lucky. We do have, we do have a slow moving SKUs and we have fast moving SKUs. As go through your production, your sales, you kind of understand, you adjust your production right away. But we haven't had any stocks like sitting in our warehouse that couldn't sell. Like we're lucky in this way. But as you said, just adjusting the demands, your A plus SKUs or your B plus SKUs, then that's easy for me. Just work with our production to adjust the production quantities.
I think also we didn't overproduce. That's a big part of it. Like keeping a tight production turns so that you don't end up stuck with too much inventory. I think that's helped us. And, we kind of abide by the philosophy that we'd rather be sold out than overstocked.
How do you approach launching new SKUs as well? I remember that you said you obviously have your kind of hero products, and then you also have products that maybe are B plus products. But what's that kind of process when you realize, okay, we need to actually introduce more SKUs and kind of have more assortment of products? Because it also maybe complicates on the supply chain side. Because of course you're then ordering more amount of products. So how do you think about a SKU expansion just in general?
And I think you have to see there's a market to it. So before you produce anything, bring anything new, just do your market research. Is there really a need on the market? And what added benefits you're having to add this new SKU instead of your old SKU? What's differentiate the two, right? So for us, we bring in our eco tape, which is a lower price point with a different material, and we brought our Heali Bump, our pregnancy tape, because women are using king tape to tape their belly, which is super sticky and there's no infusion, but we added all this product benefits. And then we know the products comes out, there's market need for it, which is true because our Heali Bump just is going to like a big chain. So before you bring anything new, do your market research, understand why you launch it. I think once you write the pros and cons, you understand why you launch it, then that's much better. You can lay down your marketing strategies and stuff like that already.
Really helpful. Kind of understanding that there's actually a market out there before you actually launch a new product. And then as you approach market expansion, even if that market might not be as big as maybe your initial market, there's still a market there that you can expand to. Cool. How also, I mean, back on the pricing, because I know that you also have, you also sell online and e-commerce. What's your kind of approach? Is it kind of standard pricing throughout in terms of on the wholesale retail side versus online, or how do you think about pricing when it comes to different channels?
We're trying to keep a map pricing for retailers out there, and then again we have different pricing strategies for pharmaceuticals and for mass stores, for groceries and stuff like that. And because you have to considering each chain has a different chargebacks, different pricings for vendors and stuff like that. But we're trying to keep the same map pricing.
Got it. That's useful. Because I've heard from some brands that retailers, when they see different prices in different accounts, they're like, hey, why are pricing higher here versus lower there? But I understand in terms of this product, it's quite unique that you actually are selling in quite different accounts, like pharmaceuticals versus.
But they do in the chains that like at some good performing stores, we do see they put prices a little bit higher than the stores were in a not very good performing area. But then again, it's not out of our hand. When we're trying to provide to retailers, we keep roughly the same map pricing.
And they get to choose also. Like you can make suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's their decision what they're going to list it for. The only thing you can control is what you're selling it to them for and the rough margins that they make. So again, you just try your best to to keep it as close as possible. And at least within the chain, we've been successful within the type of store.
My final question to you both is, what do you value more? $100 of COGS, $100 of inventory, or $100 cash?
Can we answer both? I need products to sell. I need the money to market. I need both. To operate, I need the $100 to market and sell. Yeah, and we need $100 products to sell at this stage of our operation of company.
Yeah, no, that like how I like to think about this question is if your product is selling, again, I mean, although very, very few products, right, just sell off without, actually spending on marketing. But if your product is selling, then take the $100 of COGS, because if you have any type of margin, right, then you're gonna then that $100 of COGS is worth way more than $100 of cash. And at the same time, if your product isn't selling, then take the $100 of cash. So, but at the same time, I understand too, from what you're saying, Lee, in that you actually need cash to kind of spend that marketing in order to actually sell through those the inventory. So totally get it.
Thank you. And plus, with our store expansion, we're expanding to the stores. Again, it's like I need both. I need that $200 in.
Well, Heather and Lee, thanks so much for your time. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, May. Thanks for telling the Heali story.
And there you have it. It was awesome chatting with Heather and Enwei. Again, we don't just produce content, we also produce events. So check out manufacture.com/events in order to bring together the emerging consumer ecosystem together. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful.